everybody, it is Melanie Mitro and Katie Ersta, and we are the hosts of the Make Chic Happen podcast. And this podcast is for you, friend. We're going to dive into the skills, mindset, and systems you need to build a successful social media presence, and it supports your business goals. All right, and I am Melanie Mitro, one of the co-hosts, and I have left my full-time career in early intervention to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm seriously craving something more. All right, and I'm Katie. I am a stage 4 cancer survivor. I absolutely love all things storytelling, and I was a teacher who truly just wanted to get the groceries paid for. Never in a million years did I see what would happen with this business. Oh my gosh, and here we are, 10 years later, and we have built multi-million-dollar businesses from our laptop, from our kitchen tables, basically anywhere that you have Wi-Fi. And the cool part is now we get to teach other people how to do the same. So just 2 female entrepreneurs who are wives, moms, and we're also besties who want to take you on the journey right alongside us to help you build a business that you love and a life that you desire. All right, so come on in, check out today's episode. Well, hey everyone, it is Katie Ersta of the Make Chic Happen podcast, and I have a very special guest. Well, I have 2 guests here today. If you are watching this on YouTube or on Instagram, you will see that we have a little friend, Truly, here, as well as Alyssa Gumto. And just a little bit of background. Alyssa has been with us here at Chic Influencer from the beginning, really from the beginning. She started as an intern, and she now has the essential role of helping us develop Chic Way Media, but she also helps do all of our social media. So she is in charge of creating content, really helping Melanie and I make sure that we are up to date on trends of social media, understanding what our clients really need as well. And so Truly and Alyssa today are really going to help us kind of take a deeper dive into some of the most common mistakes, right? That we see social media managers and even those who just market on social media, some of the biggest mistakes they make. And we were joking around beforehand. We're kind of laughing now because our partner in crime, Melanie, is not here today, but we did say that we were going to kind of keep it real. So that means we're going to throw some truth bombs out there about things that are working on social media and aren't, as well as some very, very common mistakes. So even as you're watching this or you're listening, and if you're listening, you're missing the good stuff because Truly is like so excited right now. If you are listening or you're watching this, it might be a good idea for you to just kind of take note and then go back to your social media and just evaluate, take a really sort of objective view of your media and really think about some of these tips and strategies. So we're gonna dive right in today. So tell us a little bit about one of the most common mistakes, and this is the one that I know when we're talking, and you're auditing, that you always say is one of the biggest mistakes people make. You wanna bite that? And that is the bio. Do you wanna talk through that?
Yeah, so the Instagram bio, one of the things that I see being a super common mistake is people make it so much about them that they forget to even attract those ideal clients of them.
Yes.
And when I was talking to Katie yesterday when we were preparing for this, one of the big things, I was like, I don't understand why people put how many goldfish they have in their bio. Like, that's great that you have 5 goldfish, you have like a cute golden retriever like me, like that's awesome. But how does that help your ideal client who we're trying to attract? It doesn't matter if you are a network marketer or even if you're in like, you know, you have your own brick and mortar, you really want to attract those people so that when they come to your page, they really get that professional vibe. Obviously, yes, we still want the touch of personal, but in the bio, we really just need to know who you are speaking to. So for example, if you really want to speak to, you know, people my age, so they're in their 20s, then you really want to make sure that you're talking about that and you're not speaking directly to, you know, people that are empty nesters and, you know, their kids are in college.
Yeah.
So it's really, So it's really just knowing who those people are and really getting clear with that in your bio. And some people do lose sleep over, oh, you know, I don't want to feel like I'm eliminating someone else by only speaking to that one person.
Right.
And so what's cool about it too is like you can play around with it as well and change it up.
Yeah. I also want to note that when it comes to the bio, we want to remember that our social media as marketers, this is not for somebody who just has a personal social media account. But as somebody who's marketing a product, a service, or an experience, our social media isn't so much about us as much as it's how we serve other people. And so when your bio is a representation of just who you are without being about how you serve someone, it actually doesn't set you up professionally. So I want to add that tip. Okay, let's talk about the second one. And I'm going to cringe for a second because mine are really out of date. So even as we were writing down this list and we were going through it, I sat there and I thought to myself, okay, Alyssa, that mine need a little bit of help. So do you want to talk about the second
Yeah,
one?
so sure. Katie doesn't even have to say it, and I know exactly what she's talking about. She's talking about those highlights. And this is another thing that really makes me cringe.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at accounts and someone will have like 27 different highlights. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. Like, that's great that you want to showcase your Italy trip from 2015. But again, how is that relevant today with those ideal clients of yours? Again, we're always trying to be professional. So my number one tip, is go through your highlights and get rid of any that are no longer relevant. Like I said, that Italy trip from 2015, bye. Save the photos, thank you, next.
Right.
But really, we really want to narrow it down. And I would say even no more than like 7 or 8, because again, when people are creeping, and like Katie knows I love creeping, when people are creeping on your profile, they're going to look at those highlights first, because it's so much faster to just click through each one to learn more about what you're offering, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether it's an experience as well. Because that's just a quick, easy way. Okay, I know what this Katie lady is about. I want to follow her. Or, you'll get the people that are like, you know what, this just isn't the match for me. And they'll go on to the next, which is fine. But was something now that I really want people to start doing is because now that everyone has the feature to have a link in their stories, you really want to make sure that if you before didn't have that 10,000 followers, to get the swipe up, to actually go back through your highlights, create some new ones in there so that you do have the link feature, so that you're directing people, whether it's a freemium, whether it's an opt-in, whether it's a resource, a group, anything that you're directing people, or if you have a product, like how, Katie and Melanie launched the Make Chic Happen Planner, you want to make sure that link is there.
Yeah. Just to clarify too, when we're talking about highlights, we're talking specifically about the little circles that are found on your homepage. And the whole purpose of a highlight is, again, to really highlight your services or what makes you unique as well. So for example, if you're a traveler and you enjoy showcasing the different places you've been, you can put that into your highlight section, but you're also asking yourself, all right, how does this specific highlight help me serve someone? How does this specific highlight actually help me showcase a reason why somebody might want to work with me? So I want to add that piece of it too. Also, if your highlights are out of date, as Alyssa mentioned, it's time to actually do a little bit of work and carve out time. Use your Make Chic Happen time blocker and actually carve out time to take that moment and actually go through your highlights and review it as well. So highlights is number 2. And you might be going, okay, all right, I might need a little bit of help with that, but let's talk about number 3, and I'm going to let you just kind of be real about this, and this is your stories. So you want to talk about that for a little?
Stories. Okay. Buckle up for this one.
Okay.
When it comes to your stories, and this is something that I've been saying day one, even to Katie and Melanie as well, is you can have the prettiest graphics. You can have the prettiest Canva slides. Like, that's awesome. But if you're not showing up and actually showing your face on stories, it means nothing. As, consumers, people buy when they hear your passion and what it is behind, what you are marketing, whether it's that product, service, or experience. So definitely show up in your stories and talk. And I know some people are, they kind of overthink it, so they don't take any action at all. Or they're like, oh, I just don't need to. No, you actually do, because that's where people connect with you. And I really like how Katie always explains to people, it's like your 24 hours of like where you can really market. Yeah. And it's like your little, like commercial, because people are clicking through that story to learn more about what it is that you're sharing about. And two, my biggest thing when it comes to your stories is don't forget to add captions. Instagram has made it super easy this year to actually use the caption feature, because so often, most of the time, when people are clicking through those stories, they're not even, they don't have the sound on. They're in line at Target.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they're just like, you know, during their lunch break at work, they're clicking through those stories. So always take the time to have those captions. And don't forget too to use, you know, like the link sticker, the poll, the quiz feature, all of those different things that Instagram allows us to use. Leverage that because Instagram notices that. So you definitely want to take advantage of those too.
Yeah. Let me talk about another one of my pet peeves. And I know you know this. So in stories, when we were doing some audits, I remember having this conversation with you where a lot of times, especially people who are really in the thick of building, and I see it most commonly probably with people in direct sales, where a lot of how you market is how you showcase and how you show up on social media. The other issue we see with stories is that people can't actually put their phone down. And so if I go into a set of stories and all I see is somebody who has been talking or showcasing
Their
they're documenting their entire day. I'm like, are you actually living, or are you actually so connected to your phone that you're disconnected from reality? And that also is a very clear message that I don't want to send to people as well. And so my sweet spot for stories is usually about 10, give or take. There are some days where I do 1 or 2. And then there are other days where I have about 10 or 15 different stories. Another little tip that we've seen, especially in 2021 going into 2022, is sometimes you need a reset. And a reset basically means you delete your stories that you have put out, so you start with you start fresh in the new day. So sometimes on a Saturday, if I don't really feel like being plugged into my phone, I actually don't do a story set. And then on Sunday, if I'm getting ready to start my marketing again for the week ahead, I'll show up in my stories and I notice that it refreshes, that my engagement goes back up if it has been down. So I just want to say that that is one of the tips and tricks that we're seeing going into 2022 that we're noticing as well with stories.
And
so go ahead.
Not to cut you off, but
No,
I
you're
wanted
fine.
to say this before we jumped into the next tip, because this is something that you do really well.
Yeah.
Is I love when you'll post on stories and you'll be like, you know what, we're at a tournament this weekend. Like I'll respond, you know, like I see your messages. Like you also give people like the heads up, like, hey, if you're waiting for me, like I see you, but I am, you know, at the deck for, you know, the next 8 hours.
And don't you think, no, like really, that's my life, like 8 hours of hockey. But don't you think people respect that too? As a business owner and as a healthy CEO, setting boundaries for your business is key. And the more that you set them, the more others respect them.
Exactly.
So it's okay to unplug. We will never be the type of people who tell you to go at it 24/7, hustle harder, never take a break, because it's actually not healthy for you or the precedents you're setting for the people that are following you. Okay, so those were 3 tips so far. Now let's go into the grid, which is your live space where everything sort of is on your social media. So do you want to talk about the grid?
Yeah, so when it comes to your grid, there's definitely a few things that make me cringe. And the number one...
I feel like you're saying this very nicely, because there are times where the girl rants about this. So go ahead.
And I will say, the one thing that I just honestly dislike is when people will take screenshots of all these quotes and stuff that they find on Facebook or on Pinterest or on Google. They'll take the screenshot, they'll crop it, but then they just automatically post it to Instagram. Like, that's great, but it's actually not, because on Instagram you want to remember that it needs to be a square. And the reason I say that is because anything that's larger than a square, especially if it has text on it, it's gonna get cut off when people are scrolling on your grid. So that's definitely something to consider. And my tip anytime I'm auditing accounts is then to encourage you to go into Canva, use your brand colors, and if you find the quote on Google, on Facebook, Pinterest, wherever, I'm not saying don't use it, I'm just saying it, you know, refresh it so that it's on brand for you. So for example, on Chic, I would never post something a quote that I found that's like lime green and hot pink. That does not go with our brand, and I would definitely get called out for it. So I would go to Canva and I would use our brand colors to make sure that it aligned and that it still, you know, went with our grid. Now I will say too, and I had this conversation with Katie and Melanie, as well as a one-on-one client of theirs and a Chic Media client of ours too this week, was I don't want you to get so focused either on the way your grid looks. So I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, I just used pink. Now I need to use gray. Now I need to go back to pink. No, it doesn't need to be that perfect because like I told this client, no one's life is perfect either. So having a perfect curated Instagram grid just isn't the vibe. You just need to still show up as your true self. And again, just take the time, go into Canva, change up the brand colors so that it aligns to you and your, overall vibe.
We talked about this in a meeting one time. We almost describe your grid as being, it's almost like white cabinets, sticky fingerprints on white cabinets. So there is an element of imperfection because there should be that element of relatability where people see you as real. And I think sometimes where you have such a cohesion with your grid and you aren't really showing what is real, that also comes off as sometimes insincere. And so it's okay if you have that little stick of like imperfect with it as well. And don't beat yourself up if your head is cut off in a reel or you forgot to like get the caption within the square. Just say to yourself, all right, it shows a little bit of sticky fingerprint on white cabinet. What can I do now to create a little bit more cohesion in my grid? So I think that's pretty powerful as well. And of course, even with the grid, I also think about what is your brand messaging.
Yes.
And you only have so many squares that people see at the very beginning. Really, the sweet spot is the first 9 before the fold is about 9 squares. And so in those 9 squares, you want to think to yourself, what is it that people can expect when they come to my page? And if you aren't consistent with the messaging, the reason somebody has for following you, and it doesn't show up immediately in those first 9 blocks, chances are you're gonna lose people's interest because you're just not being consistent enough with the messaging. So for sure, you wanna make sure there's cohesion with your grid, there's imperfection with your grid, but it's also on brand with what you're trying to say. All right, let's talk about your final tip, which is a big one because this is always being updated. So talk about the Instagram updates.
Okay, so one of the newest updates that just happened, I would say even this past month or so, is like the Instagram collaborate feature. And what you can do with that collaborate feature is you can actually collaborate with another account. So for example, what you'll see even if you go onto our Chic Influencer account is that, Katie will collaborate with Chic Influencer, or Chic Influencer will collaborate with the Make Chic Happen planner page or the Make Chic Happen podcast page.
Yeah.
And what I really like about this is that it extends your reach. So instead of just, reaching those people that follow that one account, now you're doubling your reach and you're reaching more people.
Right.
So if you have like other people in your photo that have Instagram and have an Instagram presence, then you'll want to make sure that you're collaborating with them. If you're working with a brand, that would be a really cool thing to do, would be to collaborate with them that way, if that's, part of like your contract and working with them as a brand partner. But it's definitely something to leverage. And if you're like, well, Katie, well, Alyssa, I don't have anyone to collaborate with.
Yes.
You probably do. And I will say, if you're a member of our Chic Influencer community, go post in our Facebook group asking for someone, and I can guarantee you that someone would totally love to collaborate with you because, like I said, you're, reaching their audience and then they're reaching your audience.
Right.
So it's a win-win for both.
It is, because you should be collaborating with complementary accounts. And for a complementary account is an account that somebody would benefit, one of your buyers or consumers, they would, or even just a follower would benefit from what they have to offer. So for example, if you're in the health and wellness industry, they wouldn't necessarily be doing exactly what you do, but maybe they offer a supplement or a service that you don't offer. And that's a great way for you to reach their audience, and in turn, their audience reaches you. So I definitely love all these tips. And if you're not really implementing the collaboration feature, make it a goal for yourself. Make it a goal to actually say, all right, who can I collaborate with? Make a list and actually get to work on it. One other thing we really want to address today is we get asked a lot about what we do here at Chic Influencer and Chic Media. So Alyssa, why don't you dive in for a minute and talk about the difference between those two companies, and you can think about which company might serve your needs.
Okay, perfect. So Chic Influencer, that's like the OG, that's the original one that Katie and Melanie started. And that one is really for like the person in like direct sales who really, you know, just wants to learn more about social media, wants to learn how to, you know, attract their ideal client, who that ideal client is, how to write content that attracts them, you know, how to recruit. Like, there are so many topics. Like, we could do another podcast episode about the topics that we cover, especially in the community. So a lot of that is what we focus on. Well, I should say we, that Katie and Melanie focus on.
Which is part of it too, for sure.
Inside the Chic community. So like that is our monthly membership program. They also offer like one-on-one mentorships as well. So that's really for the person, you know, that's just like, you know what, I need systems, I need help. Like, just give me what you learn, because with the experience that Katie and Melanie have, they really do bring a lot to the table in terms of really helping these people that they mentor. So I really like that also that we do. Obviously, we have the podcast, we have the planner. So there are a lot of things in regards to that, but then we really took it up a level in really like 2020, I would say. In August is when we had our first Chic Media client. And what Chic Media is it's where our team, so myself, and we have additional people on the team as well, who we are in charge of creating copy. We are in charge of creating graphics. We're in charge of hashtagging. We're in charge of engaging. We're in charge of commenting for these busy business owners that need to go do what they do best in social media. They just don't necessarily have the time for it.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're, you know, let's say you're a dentist, you don't have time to be sitting on social media looking for your ideal clients. So instead you would come to Chic Media and we would work with you to really ensure that the captions, the copy, what we're creating for you aligns to you, so that, like I said, you can get back to really focusing on what you do as the business owner, and let us kind of handle all the behind the scenes social media work that it really does take time. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially business owners, is that social media takes time. It's not just like, oh, I can just throw up this post and be done. There's a thought that goes into it. There's a strategy that goes into it. So I really like it. And if you want to learn more about Chic Media, we have something for you.
Yeah. So you'll notice that in the show notes, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram today, we actually have a free buyer's guide. This helps you walk through how to take someone from being a loyal follower into a paying customer. And it's a great guide for you to actually get your feet wet with media marketing, especially if you're new to how media works and how it can really make a profound impact on your business. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Make Chic Happen podcast. And we loved having Truly as our guest. You can check out the show notes, lots of information. You can get your guide as well today, totally free. Thanks so much. So if you loved today's episode, make sure you head over to wherever you listened to the episode today and leave us a rating and review. And also take a little screenshot and tag us on Chic Influencer. We'll feature you in our stories. Plus, we'd love to get your feedback and hear from our listeners. Until next week, let's make chic happen.